Okay, so I'm going to talk you through the RMX-1000, brand new addition to Pioneer's effector range and the next generation in our effect series. So we've got essentially a new take on the EFX-1000. Massively improved and massively streamlined interface, as well as a whole host of new effects put on here. So it comes in 3 sections, right? We're using it at the moment in a DJ setup, so for a DJ performance on a send-return basis from our mixer. Although if you don't have send-return connections on your mixer, you can use it as a direct through, so run out of your mixer into the RCA connections of the RMX and then straight out to your system. Also means it can be used in conjunction with a MIDI controller as well. It also comes with 2 pretty groundbreaking pieces of software. So we've got Remix Box, a piece of software we've developed so we can completely customize every control on this. Every filter control, every sample trigger, every single control pot on the unit can be adjusted to suit every DJ style. So no DJ using this is going to sound the same. You're going to use each effect in your own specific way when you flick to user settings instead of default. The third part to it is a VST and an audio unit which come on a disc in the box, which can be loaded up inside any DAW, so Logic, Cubase, Ableton, and you get hardware control over the virtual representation of the RMX-1000. So all of the effects available on this unit aren't just for when you're DJing, you can use them when you're producing as well. Now, jumping onto the hardware, let me talk you through the 4 sections of the unit and show you exactly how it sounds. So if I get some music running. Now, the best way to demonstrate what it's capable of is if I get a loop running on the CDJ. So we're literally just going to hear this 4-beat loop running over and over again. Any changes to the audio, any tonal changes or anything added is literally all coming from the box. So we'll start with the isolate effects section. Now these are frequency based effects. So we've got 7 effects which we can apply to 3 frequency bands, and we can apply 2 effects at one go. So you can see we've got an isolator, 3-band isolator EQ. Very straightforward, but with large rotary control pots, so a lot of control and very nice feel to it. The next 3 controls, we've got 2 effects on each button, so I can now apply an additive effect to the mid-range whilst cutting the highs. So you turn it right, you get one effect, you turn it left, you get the other effect. Now what you heard there was a vinyl break, so I've jumped on to the release effects section on the far right. Now these act as a performance tool, so we've got a vinyl break. We've also got an echo. And a backspin. Now, cool little performance tool. They give you 3 parameters for each effect as well, so you can literally, this toggle switch I'm using will go all the way down, and then you've got 2 parameters in between that, indicated by the light, giving us different values. So a full beat echo, a half beat, and a quarter beat, which can all be customized inside the Remix Box software as well. Now they act as a really cool transition between effects, so if I jump onto but it also acts as a reset. So the idea of the release effect is it releases any combination of effects you're in. So if you're in a complex effect chain using a number of effects and you're building up to the drop and you can't see a way to exit that, you can literally now just punch a release effect and it will reset the whole unit back to default setting for you. So really cool release and really cool transition between different effects. And you can hear when we start using these effects in detail how much it starts to change the audio that we're actually hearing. Now this is why it's called the RMX. We're branding it as the remix station. So you're no longer just affecting the tracks that we're DJing with, we're completely destructing or exciting them and changing how they sound, hence the abbreviation remix station. You can hear how different that sounds from the original 4-beat loop that we were hearing. Now, focusing on the section down at the bottom, we've got a X-pad, so a touch sensitive ribbon control, which has been incorporated from the DJM-900 Nexus, except we've expanded on it, we've made it a bit bigger, and we've given a bit easier to see the 5 values that are applicable here. So if I touch this, we get literally a roll. So it's rolling, the famous roll effect of the DJM mixers, rolling 2 beats, 1 beat. Different values on every step. Fully customizable as well. If I jump to my user settings, you'll now hear completely different values. And we've also incorporated a pitch control. So some advanced creative flair can be taking place on that. And above it, we've got our sample triggers. So the RMX comes with a 4-slot sample bank, and it comes preloaded with these synthesized 909 sounds. It also has an additional 4 banks of samples which you can edit and add your own in as you wish using the Remix Box software. This gives you the ability to add in 16 seconds worth of samples on each bank. These can be 4 seconds on each sample, or they can be one long 16-second loop, or they can be 2 of 8 seconds. It's completely up to you. So if we hit the overdub, we can now record a 4-beat loop. And it will start to record what you've punched in there. Now these can be rolled as well. Once you've got a drum beat programmed in there, you can mute sections, or you can start to roll them using the X-pad. Now, once you've punched in a drum pattern, these can also be sent into the isolate effects. So then they start to receive the same treatment as the main audio. And they can also then be sent into the scene effects. So this section over here, the large red and blue section, gives us 10 effects, which are designed to either work in 2 ways. We've got build-up effects in the red and breakdown effects in the blue. So the concept behind these is at any point in any loop, any time of any track, you can either create some kind of energy or intensity using the red effects, or completely strip back the loop and destruct it using the blue effects, the breakdown effects. So if we implement a spiral, they're now increasing intensity. Same with white noise. So really raising the energy of that little loop. If we use the blue effects, you can hear it completely starts to strip it back. Jump straight out of it using the release effects. Now, the beauty of this is you can set it up in a way so the scene effects you can actually create constant feedback loops that won't degrade. So if I decide to punch my X-pad into a customized echo that I've set up, I can start to overdub certain functions and certain sounds using my additional sample pads. So to literally create some intensity, I'm going to start rolling a single drum. And you can hear that loop that we was listening to all that time, that 4-beat loop, is now sounding like a completely different track. Now I'm going to feed them into my echo. That little drum roll is now fed into my echo and it's not going to stop. That's a non-degrading loop that is then there for me to manipulate over the top of my track. And which can also be assigned to a different channel of your mixer as well. So you can actually have volume control over it and only hear that if you want. Which you can then start to overdub using banks 1, 2, 3 or 4. So if I jump to a bank 3 of a vocal, hit the X pad and that will start to record. Throw in other drums from other banks. So once this feedback loop is running consistently and it's not degrading, when you're ready to eliminate it from the mix or from the track that you're applying it to, you can literally just turn the feedback down and that will then start to degrade and bleed out of our mix. And you can hear it slowly fading away. Okay, so like I said, the RMX is completely customizable. So you can change every control on the hardware, how it reacts to the music you're affecting using the Remix Box software. So here you see the image of the RMX on here. Any effect that we want to adjust, we literally hover our mouse over it and it will expand a window where you can literally click on any effect you want to change and change it. Now the best way to demonstrate this is if I've got some music running and I've actually got the spiral affecting this track. So here you can hear, we're hearing a spiral effect on a default setting. So if I click the spiral, it now gives us these options to manipulate. We can change the spiral type, we can change the echo time, we can also change the pitch type. So whilst this is affecting this track, I'll literally change the spiral type from default to mild and listen to the change. So a much less intense spiraling effect. And then we can go for wild and we get a longer effect type on that, a bit more destructive. Also really easy to demonstrate using an echo effect. So if I assign just a standard echo, now on all delay based effects, subparameter 1 becomes our echo time, as you can see up on the Remix Box software. Now at the moment, this is split into 4 parameters, 4 quarters. So the first quarter is set to be a quarter beat on the software. While that's affecting the track, I literally change parameter 1 that we're affecting the track with now to a 16th. And provided sync is clicked, them settings have now been sent to the RMX-1000 box. So my customized settings, change it to an 8th. or a full beat, whichever 4 parameters you want to use. We were finding on the RMX-1000 it was fully loaded with the full echo time parameters, but DJs weren't making use of all of them. So this is a good way of saving space on the unit and just giving you the choice of the preferred echo time parameters that you want to use when you're mixing. This is also where we're going to incorporate and load up our own samples. So every single control pot on the RMX-1000 is changeable and completely customizable to be unique to that DJ's style. If we go to the X pad, we've got all these options that we can change. So we've got various different types of roll, slip roll, divide roll, oscillator, so you can change how the drum samples sound. You can change the decay, the envelope, the gain, but I'm going to jump into sampler. And this is literally where I drag and drop and load in my own samples. So any wave file, provided it's 44 kilohertz and above, can be loaded into your sample slots just like that, literally by loading in. And they can set to be either one shot or loops. So sample bank 4, I've got a 16-second loop that will literally loop over and over again. It's important to remember your samples that you load in are not stored on the RMX hardware. They're going to be stored on the SD card, which is inserted into the side. So this acts as a card reader. When that's inserted, the computer's reading it because it's connected via USB. So what we do, once we've fully customized our unit, we literally go to export your effect parameters and sample data to your SD card. Depending on your sample length and how many samples you've loaded up, this can vary in time. You'll see this probably takes about 7 seconds for this to load up. And once that's done, your samples are there, they're good to go. One important thing to remember also is when you've loaded them in, you won't be able to read your samples until you disconnect the USB cable. So important, eject the SD card from your computer. Once that's ejected, remove the USB cable and you're good to go. You can use all your own samples and the ones that I've just thrown in, which was this kick drum and a kick drum loop, in your mix. Now, the other bit of software that I mentioned was the VST, which we can use inside Logic or Ableton or Cubase. So this works in a different way. This is taking the RMX-1000 from a DJing tool to a production tool. So if we connect that back up by USB, we've now got a virtual representation of the RMX-1000 loaded up and affecting an audio track inside Ableton. And all the effects that we were using in the DJ principle before, we can now use hardware control inside our software. So all these really high quality effects, not only restricted to DJing, we can use them when we're creating our music as well.